Hello everyone. I welcome each and every one of you to ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass 2022. This is a bonus episode which was prepped in response to so many requests from our customers asking about the latest features in ServiceDesk Plus. In this episode, we're planning to introduce to the newest features that we brought about in ServiceDesk Plus in the past 6 months. I'm Steffi Benjamin here from the User Educator team, and I will be your trainer for this session. And if you have any feedback and questions, you can send them to my email address on screen or to hello@servicedeskplus.com. So the agenda for this session is that we're going to see how you can use Service Desk Plus to optimize your campus utilization and effectively manage occupancy in your campuses. We'll then see how you can maintain your asset inventories and create enhanced chart types and set up custom operational hours for different days of the week. And finally, we'll take a look at some minor enhancements in Service Desk Plus. So the first feature we'll be discussing about is understanding how to track and optimize campus occupancy using Service Desk Plus. So this is achieved by a feature called space management, and I hope you have had a chance to look at it previously. If not, we'll look into it now. So space management will help you visually manage the physical spaces in your organization across all levels, and you also have a consolidated view present there where you can view each and every physical space. Now you might wonder what would help desk solution like Service Desk Plus, why would it need to manage physical spaces? Well, a lot of times in organizations, incidents or changes are often performed relevant to a space within that organization, or sometimes there are assets that are present in that space that are tied to that specific space. Now, when you want to report an incident that is happening in that space, you might not have a facility to do that earlier. But now, with space management, you can raise incidents or service requests for a space. You can associate assets to a space and track them using that. Before we go into understanding space management, I want to take some time to explain why facility managers need Service Desk Plus to manage occupancy. Now, the number one reason is that facility managers often have trouble accessing essential information about the space. Now, especially if there is a huge campus, a lot of times facility managers are not even sure if certain services are being provided in a specific space. For example, there might be ATM in one structure, there might be a balcony in another structure, and facility managers are not aware of this because there is no centralized location where all of these details are tracked. Rather, it is by word of mouth. And then there is a poor service quality as there is no association between tickets or assets and their corresponding spaces. Take a scenario where there is network outage in a specific building, and suddenly you might face a lot of requests coming in and saying that internet is down, we're not able to access internet, and so on. Now, unless you are able to quickly figure out that all these assets are from the same space, you might end up using valuable time trying to figure out the root cause of those issues. By associating incidents with spaces, you will be able to perform the root cause analysis quick enough. And thirdly, facility managers struggle with space crunch, especially with the hybrid work model. When organizations are planning events, they are not able to plan and accommodate the remote employees or take an audit of the available spaces to see if they can accommodate their remote employees. And finally, there is always the ever evolving regulatory and compliance standards. And without proper documentation to track those, facility managers often fail to meet to these standards. So using space management, you can tackle all of this in one go. So I'll now take you to the product and we'll see how space management can be configured and set up in Service Desk Plus. So before I go into a demo of the feature, I want to put a few pointers about the feature. Number one is that space management is available only in facilities help desk. And number two, it is available only for the enterprise licensed versions of Service Desk Plus. Now, going into the product, let me log in as the administrator. So As an admin, when you log into Service Desk Plus, you might have multiple Service Desk instances set up, like Help Desk, Facilities, and HR Desk. And as I just told you, space management is available only in the Facilities Help Desk. Now, logging into the Facilities Help Desk, you will see that spaces are tracked and can be viewed from an entire tab. And within this space module, you have different spaces that can be stored and managed. So, all these spaces are related to one another. As in, a campus would refer to the overall space of the organization, while a structure would be the multiple buildings present within the campus. For example, let's say that Zilker is a huge campus spanning 10,000 square meters. Now, an entire building might not encompass the whole of area. Rather, there would be multiple buildings scattered throughout the campus. So, all those would be considered as structures. And then we have floors, where within each structure, you would have multiple floors present. And in each floor, you have rooms and spaces. Now, all these spaces that you are viewing here, they would sometimes have certain services provided additionally to meet the needs of people working in these spaces. Now, they are tracked as facility services. And finally, we have space tree, where you get a consolidated view of how these spaces interact with one another. Now, before going into these spaces and seeing how to set up, I want to take a short detour to the admin module and show you how you can set up your space module. Now, as with other modules like requests, changes, and problems, you always have to set up a few customization configurations and some templates and forms for the module to be customized to your organization. And just like that, for spaces, we have some customizations to be set up. The first one is amenities. So within each space, you would have a bunch of amenities, which is basically extra services or extra things that you provide to your organization, provide in that particular space. Now, amenities are often present within a space, and they often sound very similar to facility services that we just saw, but they have their unique definitions. We'll look about that in a minute. So in Service Desk Plus, we have some amenities configured by default, like ATM, dining, doctor on call, and so on. You can go ahead and create more amenities and add them to spaces as you create as you create new spaces. And then we have criticalities. So, criticalities would refer to the risk that is associated with the space. Let's say a particular building is undergoing renovation. So, as the renovation is happening, there might be danger of floor debris lying around and heavy machinery movement in those areas, right? So, those can be configured under criticalities, and you can assign criticalities to different spaces. And then you have room layouts, which is specialized only when you want to create room spaces. So you can say that different rooms could have different layouts, and like boardrooms or classrooms, and you can configure all of that here. And then you have space status. So this would indicate what is the current status of a space. Is it active? Is it inactive? Or is it completely closed and not available for further use? So you can create these statuses, and while creating statuses, you can color code them so that they will be instantly understandable, especially when you're looking into the consolidated view. And finally, we have space area units. So since spaces are physical entities, you would need to measure them, and you might follow different measurement unit systems like the SI unit system or the metric system. So you can configure those units under space area units. And while creating spaces, these will be fetched into the template. Now, speaking of templates, for space management, you can set up the templates under templates and forms. And since spaces have multiple types like campus, structures, and floors and rooms, so you can set up all of those templates individually. So I'll take you to campus templates, and you can just click new. But once you click new, you will view a canvas like the one you're seeing on my screen. So here you can see that we have a number of built-in fields. Some of them, like the name and site, are hard-coded, meaning they cannot be removed from the template, but other fields can be removed and moved around. For example, total capacity can be moved around or even removed if you do not want it. And if you need a field, you can simply drag and drop them from the left pane. Now, if you want to add more fields specific to your organization, you can use the add new field icon, and you can not only add fields but also different sections. So sections is basically the grouping of different fields. So this would be an entire section. And after you add all the fields and sections, you can customize them to change the look and feel or highlight certain fields and so on. So once you set up your template, you can simply save. And when you go back to your space module, uh, you can try to create a new space, and this template would pop up. So before we go there, let me also show you how other templates are configured. So when it comes to structures, we have two types of structures: buildings and non-buildings. So a structure, buildings, basically it's very understandable from the name, while non-buildings would refer to areas like parking lots, garden areas, and so on. So you can configure different templates for different types of structures and track them. So while trying to create a template, Service Desk Plus will ask you if you want a building or a non-building template. And then we have flow templates, which is very similar to the one we just saw, and templates for rooms and for facility services. So while creating for facility services, we have so far we have the supervisor template built in. You can add more fields and track them as needed. Now going back to the space module. So these are the basic the nitty-gritties that you need to set up for the space module to be fully functional. So when you go back to the space module, if you want to create a campus, you can click new, and the template that we just configured is reflected here right away. So you can enter the name, and the status will be reflected based on what you select in the customization module. So all the statuses that you save in the customization block will be reflected here. And similarly, you can see the amenities are reflected as well, and the criticalities. Now, let me take you to an existing campus and show you the details. So this is a campus I've created. So here you can see that all the details are reflected. The criticality is highlighted so that the moment you see on screen, it captures your eye. And as you create a space, you can also associate it with requests, assets, and facility services. Now, as I was telling you a while ago, facility services and amenities are very similar but not the same. So while amenities are often things, facility services are services, and amenities are provided so that they can add extra value for a space, while facility services are provided to meet a specific need within a space. So a good example is an ATM present in a building, that would be an amenity, while a housekeeping service would be facility service. Now, once you set up all these details, you can also view the structures that are present within this space. So you can configure them, you can associate a campus and a structure either when you create a structure, or you can create a new structure from here and select if you want it to be a building or a non-building. And when you select it, the structure template would open up, and you can enter all your details. And as I was telling you a while ago, when you color code statuses, they will instantly pop up on the screen, letting you know what the status of a specific structure is. And then we have associations. So in your associations, you can associate or view the associated request, assets, and facility services. So to associate a request to a space, you can either create a request from the space details page, or you can go to the request list view and try to create a request as you usually do. So when you create a request, you will have a field called space field. And if you select a space here and then you save the request, it will automatically be reflected in this details page. Now, for this space field to appear within a request template, you need to add the space field to the template. So let's see how it's done. So going back to the admin tab, under templates and forms, if you want to add space field to an incident template, you can go to the incident template. Or if you want it to be in a service request template, you can go to the service catalog. So for now, I'll show you how to do it in an incident template. So let's say that I want my space field to be present in this door maintenance request template. So you can see that the space field is present by default. You can simply drag and drop it. And on saving the template, the field will be populated when users try to raise an incident using this template. And for when it comes to assets, assets do not have any templates. So it's fairly straightforward to associate asset to a space. So in the asset tab, you can go to any assets list view and create a new asset, or you can edit an existing asset, and here you will have a space field present by default. You can simply create which space this asset is present in and save the field. Once you save the asset details, you can go back to your space and you will see that the asset will be populated in this area. So once you set up associations between a space and its request, assets, or facility services, you can also go ahead and add documents about that space. So when we were discussing about how facility managers struggle to meet the regulatory and compliance standards because of the lack of documentation, when in Service Desk Plus, you can create documents to make sure that all standards about that space are accessible to your users, and add the documents here. And finally, we have the history tab, which where you can track all the operations that happened in the space. Now, if you also had other events like fire evacuation or fire drill happening, all of those details can also be stored in the association tab by associating it with a facility service, and those details will be reflected in the history tab. And to understand how this space is related to not just structures but also to rooms and floors, you can view it in the space tree, but we'll go about the space tree after a short while. So this is how you set up a space. And similarly for structures, you can set up buildings and non-building structures. You can set up floors within each structure, so you can see that all those details have been populated, and the status and the details about that space is reflected right in the list view page. And finally, we have rooms and space. So while creating rooms and space, we have a few unique parameters present here. So we have a field called is floating capacity. So this would refer to entering details on whether this room is a temporary room or not. For example, let's say that a particular floor is being renovated. So while the renovation is going on, we would set up a conference room elsewhere on a temporary basis for users to use. And once the renovation is over, we would dismantle the room and it would no longer exist. So temporary rooms or buffer spaces like that can be added as floating capacities and tracked as well. And you can also choose the room layouts. So the room layouts were configured in the customization block a while ago. So all the layouts that you configure will be present here, and you can select them and add the capacity and track them later on. So you can see that we have set up several rooms and facility services as well. So as I was saying, facility services are services that we offer to meet certain needs of our users. So we might have services like smart rooms, pantry, and housekeeping, and so on. So once you set up all these spaces, you can go to the space tree, where you basically get a consolidated view of how these spaces interact with one another. So you can see that you can see the structures present in a campus. What are the floors present in each structure, and what is the room and space? I'm sorry, what is the room and space within that structure? So, and not only that, you can also view the capacity of this structure, if there are any requests that are associated with the space, and so on. And on clicking the options, you can either edit the space right away, you can create request, or just simply view its details. So this is your space management. And one more point I would like to reiterate is that this is available only in facilities help desk as of now. So I hope that you will be able to view and access space management in your product going further. Now, the next feature I want to go over is asset replenishment. So, asset replenishment will help you ensure that your asset inventory is always stocked. And this is achieved by sending automated email notification if your asset inventory count falls below a certain threshold. Now, why do you need to have an automated asset management system? Well, when you try to track your asset inventory manually, asset managers often run into a set of challenges. The number one challenge is that there is an increased reliance on manpower, and which is not advisable, especially if it's a resource intensive department. So you could end up overstretching your resources, and this will increase the scope for human error to happen. And secondly, organizations are often looking to scale and reduce overhead cost. So when you rely on manual tracking of assets, you might the asset managers might end up over purchasing assets that are not needed while under purchasing assets that are actually needed. And finally, we have again rigorous regulation and reporting needs. So when you present your purchase reports to your management, as an asset manager, you need to ensure that you are meeting the regulations that have been set by your organization and that you're not crossing the limits that I have put in place. So, with manual tracking, all of these challenges are very commonly faced. But enter ServiceDesk Plus, you can set up an automated tracking system using asset replenishment configuration. So, we'll go into the application, and asset replenishment can be set up in all instances. Even it's most commonly requested in IT help desk instance. So, to set up asset replenishment, you can go to your assets module and you can access the configuration from the left pane. So on clicking the left pane, you can see that we have some asset replenishment set in place already. So you can simply create a new one or edit an existing replenishment. And you can see that I have said if my product keyboard falls below 15 in-store count, then send a notification to me. So to set a new configuration, you can select the site where you want this configuration to apply. You can select the product to which this configuration must apply and say what is the threshold. So when this threshold is reached, an email will be automated as a reminder to your technicians or your administrator telling them that the asset must be restocked. So once you save, you can not only track in-store assets, but you can also track assets that are expired or in repair. So you can simply configure what are the states that must be tracked from this dialog box here. Now, let's say, for example, that as an administrator, I want to be notified if more than 10 of my workstations are in repair state. So I can simply enable that and save it. And when this threshold is crossed, I will be notified. Now, simply saving this configuration will not send the notification. You need to go to the admin tab, and under notification rules, you need to enable the notifications related to asset module. So you can scroll down and you can see that we have asset replenishment notification. So here you can select who are the technicians to whom the notification must be sent, or if you have users who are not added as technicians in service desk list. For example, your stakeholders or your CEO, they may not be technicians in Service Desk Plus, in which case you can simply add their email address and and the email would be sent to their address automatically. You can also customize the content for this notification using customize template option. So once you save, the notification settings are successfully set up. You can then go ahead and completely rely on Service Desk Plus to remind you to stock up your assets regularly. Now, the next feature I want to take a look at is the Zoho Charts integration. So you can now create enhanced chart types while generating reports. Now, reports have always existed in Service Desk Plus, and we also had charts present in those reports by default. Now, earlier those we had some simple built-in charts. Now we have improved the UI by bringing in Zoho Charts integration. This is not an integration that needs to be enabled or set up. It is built into Service Desk Plus, so you don't have to do any configuration. Rather, you can simply go directly into Service Desk Plus and create a report. Now, what is the purpose of integrating Zoho Charts with Service Desk Plus? So this will help you build and build reports that are extremely complex without having to deal with queries. Now, let's say your asset manager wants to build an asset report with a sunburst chart, which is basically a nested chart that will show you the hierarchy between the data. So, if you want to build a sunburst chart to visualize the hierarchy between assets, earlier you would have to create a report using database queries to fetch the data and group it accordingly. But now with a Zoho Charts integration, you can simply create a sunburst chart or other complex chart in one click. So I'll take you to the application once again to show you how it's done. So to create a chart using Zoho Charts, you can go to Reports tab, and you need to remember that this integration only works for custom reports. For predefined reports, we already have charts built into those reports, so you cannot modify the chart type there. But while creating a custom report, you can simply set the few mandatory configurations. So let's say I want to create a report for all requests and proceed to the report wizard. So here I can select the available columns and simply display them. And under charts tab, I can select different chart types. So we have a packed bubble chart, we have a sunburst chart like the one I was telling about, and you can select the date column and let me group them based on category. So once I run the report, the chart will be instantly generated and I will be able to view the chart as well. So I'm sorry, we have this must be an. Let me retry it once again. So I'm selecting the columns involved and the chart type. So on selecting the sunburst chart, and let me group them by some other parameter. Let me say create a time and run the report. So once the report is generated, you should be able to view the details. I'm afraid some issues happening. I'm extremely sorry about it. But basically, a sunburst chart would pop up on your screen that will help you. You can hover over the sunburst chart and view the details. And if you want, you can also view the query of the chart and fetch the details from the query. And you can modify the query to make it more complex later on. And you can save this report. You can edit it to change the parameters, and you can also send it to your stakeholders or your other technicians. So this is how Zoho Charts integrations work. And the next feature I want to talk about is uh, how you can set up custom operational hours for different days of the week. Now, this is a pretty straightforward approach. So, we had operational hours feature present in ServiceDesk Plus already. So, back then, you could simply set up the work model and then select which days of the week it is applicable to. But now we have enhanced the feature in such a way that you can set up custom hours for different days of the week. Now, this is especially useful if your organization follows multiple operational hours for different sites. For example, Zilker could have a campus in New York and another campus in Hong Kong, and both the campuses would be on different time zones, right? So you can set up different operational hours for both the sites, and accordingly, the request and other automations will be calculated based on the operational hours. So I'll take you to the application and show you how it's configured. So in the application under admin tab, we have operational hours present here. So so when you go to your operational hours, you can see that we have the working time already configured. So this was pre-existing. You can simply say if your site follows round the clock model or if it follows a standard work hours. And if it's following a standard working hour model, you can add break hours. So let's say I want my employees to have 1 hour of break every day of the week. So once I save it, you can see that the break hours are automatically reflected for all days. If I want break hours just for 1 day of a week, then I can select that week to custom hours and add break hours individually. And I can also set the custom hours to have different working hours for different days. So let's say on Tuesdays, I want my organization to work only from 10 to 6. So that would be set here. And if I don't want to consider a day as a working day, then I can simply say do not set and it will be considered as a holiday. And if you want these operational hours to be excluded on certain days, then you can say, or weeks even, you can say maybe on the first week of every month or on just the first Tuesday of every month, you can exclude the rule. So this custom hours will not be applied on the first Tuesday of every month, and rather the standard working hour timing will be followed. Now, this is applicable for the default sites. So if you have customized sites, let's say California is a separate site, so I can have my own work time for California. But if you take sites like Abu Dhabi, it's referring to another site, meaning the site's working hours are either copied or referred to from a different site. So this is configured in the sites page. So if you go to your sites details page, you can see that we have set up Abu Dhabi's operational hours to refer to the default site settings. Now I can set it to custom, and Abu Dhabi would follow its own custom settings. Or if I set it to refer settings, then whatever you configure in the default settings will automatically reflect for this particular site as well. So setting up customs operational hours will help you ensure that your automations like business rules or SLA are applied within the operational hours of that site. So this is it for custom operational hours. Now we have a few more enhancements in Service Desk Plus that are bundled into the product. So let's take some time to analyze each and every one of them. So the first enhancement I want to talk about is how you can chat with your requesters from tickets directly. So in your request module, we've always had live chat feature in Service Desk Plus. So live chat is available on the footer. So you can chat with your end users or your other technicians as well. But now you can go into a request and chat with with the requester using the live chat icon. So when you click, you can see that the chat pops up, and you can ask your requester to uh, respond to your mails or perform or tell them something else. So this will help you directly contact the requesters and increase your request resolution time. So this is how requester chats work. For to be able to talk to your requesters, you need to enable login to them. If a requester does not have login enabled, then you will not be able to chat with them from the ticket. And the next configuration I want to talk about is change configurations. So we change request has is a very fine tuned and a very controlled module, because changes are high risk entities. So when it comes to managing changes, we usually restrict the operations that can be performed on a change request. Now with change configurations, you can fine tune these permissions so that you can have much more control over your change module. So this is just a bunch of configurations where you can say if you want your change owners to be edit a change across all stages and any state of the change. Now earlier you cannot edit a change once it crosses or it completes a specific stage. Now if you enable this operation, if you enable this permission, then your change owners will be able to edit a change even if the stage is completed. Similarly, you can allow attachments to be sent in the approval emails. You can allow approval levels to be deleted even if they're added from the workflow, and so on. So once you set up these configurations, you can simply save them and they will be applied to all change requests. And the next feature is setting up alias URL. Now you would remember that when I logged into Service Desk Plus in the ESM portal page, I had three different portals accessible. Now, in some cases, when you're the administrator or even a technician with access to multiple portals, you would want to directly enter a portal and skip the time spent here. To avoid this, you can go to the ESM directory, and under service desk instances, you can set up alias URL for each instance. So you can see that I have set up an alias URL. If I copy this URL and I try to access it from a new window, then I will be directly taken to the home page of my instance. So this is just one way to ensure that you have quick access to your instances. To set up alias URL, you can edit the instance details and simply enter the details, enter the URL and update it. So once you update, you have to restart the Service Desk Plus server for the changes to take effect. Since that would involve quite an amount of time, I'm not going to do that right now. Rather, I've already set up the alias URL to work. And you can also set up alias URL from the ESM portal page. Or if you are just an SD admin and you do not have access to ESM directory, then you can still set up alias URL just for your instance alone. So you can go back to the instance, and in the admin tab, you have instance settings present under service desk configuration. So in instance settings, you can set up alias URL for this particular instance alone. And once again, you have to restart the server for the changes to take place. So this is it for alias URL. And the other features include chat reports, which is basically a way for you to analyze how well your technicians are performing over chat with the requesters. So if you go to reports tab, we have a set of predefined or inbuilt reports. So you can scroll down and see chat reports present here. So in one click, you can see the amount of chats initiated by the requester, and how much of them are answered by technician. And you can take an overview of unanswered chats or completed chats, and keep a track of your technician's performance. And then we have some UI level enhancements like improving the performance or updating certain parts of the user interface. If you have been with us for more than 6 months, then you would remember that Service Desk Plus admin page used to look very different. So we had these configurations grouped by module wise earlier, where all incident related configurations were one module or one block, and then service request related configurations were a different block. We had different blocks for problems and changes and for releases. Now we have sorted those configurations based on their usage into customization, templates, and forms and automation. And similarly, we have also allowed the users to translate any text within a user interface. So, for example, in your home page, which is the place which is most personalized to users, you can go to the help icon and click translate. And you can see that all this highlighted icon can be translated to whatever you want them to appear on screen. So, let's say I want this to say just no task in this view and modify it, and the content is translated. Similarly, I can change the content in the buttons, in the header tab, and so on. So if you close the translation mode, these changes will be retained in your instance. Now, and similarly, you also have these modules present on the header pane. Now, if you want to change the order of this module, you can do that as an administrator for your entire instance users, or you can just personalize it to your liking. So to set up the order as an administrator, go to the admin tab, and under UI customization, you can organize the tabs as per your liking. So let's say I want my changes to be placed before home tab, since it's very frequently used, and I can save it. Now all my users will have the change tab appear first in the header. Let me refresh the page. All my users will have the change tab appear first in the header by default. Now, I do not want this change to be retained. For myself, I would like the change tab to be present in a different place. So I can configure it here, or I can move it further down and click save. And this is personalized. So which means this particular order is visible only to me. So I can allow technicians to personalize their own tabs similarly as well. Now, once I've set up this, my UI level enhancements are done. So the final feature I want to touch upon is failover service. Now, failover service was previously present in Service Desk Plus as a scripting feature, meaning you had to use scripts to fetch the feature and configure it. Now we have introduced the feature in UI itself so that you can configure it directly from the user interface. So to access the feature, if you are an ESM user, you can access it from the ESM directory. If you are not a ESM user, you can access failover service from the general settings. So since this is an ESM setup, I'll take you to the ESM directory where failover service is present. You can see FOS configuration. Now FOS feature is an add-on feature, meaning even if you have enterprise level license, you still need to purchase FOS license separately to set it up for yourself. And for those of you who are not aware of what FOS means, failover is simply a hot standby system where you can ensure that Service Desk Plus is available at all times. So it ensures constant availability of the application even if your servers are affected. So in a hot standby system, you have two servers. You have the primary server and a secondary server, which is the standby server. So you might have Service Desk Plus running in the primary server. And let's say a user is raising a request. The request is logged in the primary server where the application is being hosted. And the details about the request, like attachments or just the description and all such information, is pushed to the common database server. And all these systems are present in the same network. Now, the standby server will continue to just run idle and listen to the primary server constantly, while it is also pulling the changes from the database server itself. Now, in a situation where the primary server is currently not reachable, your users might end up losing access to Service Desk Plus. There could be loss of data, some users might have been updating a request and the updates might not be saved. So to avoid all of this, FOS comes into play. So when the primary server becomes unreachable, the standby server would recognize the primary server is not active anymore, and it will immediately take over as the primary server. And since all the details about the request changes and all such data are in the database server, the standby server will pull the latest data or a copy of all the data and continue hosting the ServiceDesk Plus application. Now, while this might seem very complicated in the backend, in live, when the user is using Service Desk Plus, all this happens in the blink of an eye. So there is no change in the URLs, there is no change in any configuration. Everything continues as though nothing happened. So at some point in time, when the primary server comes back online, it would recognize that the secondary server is now hosting Service Desk Plus, and so the primary server will become the standby server itself. So this is how failover service works. To set up failover service, you can simply mention the primary server's IP address, the NIC address, and the same details for the secondary server. And you can create a virtual IP to which both the servers are bound to the common database server. And you can mention a user to whom the failover must be notified. So in a lot of cases, when server issues on or when a server is suddenly not reachable, it would require manual intervention for the server to come back online. So when a primary server goes down, you would need some of your users to be notified so that they can intervene and set your primary server backup. So for this, you can configure the email addresses, and when the primary server goes down and the secondary server takes over, notifications will be sent to these users accordingly. And once you set up failover service, it does not end here. You also need to set up failover service replication configuration. Because as I was telling, for the FOS feature to work, the secondary server must be able to pull changes from the primary server's data details, right? So for that, you just need to enter the IP addresses, username, and passwords of those machines, and the secondary server will start replicating all the files periodically. So once you set up failover service, you can save the configuration, and you will have to restart the application for the servers to start in FOS startup mode. So that's it for the features in this session. I hope you have had the opportunity to use these features earlier. If not, I hope that you will be able to understand their working going forward. I want to also talk about the other resources that we have, such as the admin guide, the release notes, and the huge repository of product videos in our YouTube channel. We also have a community where you can talk to your peers, or the support portal where you can contact our support people anytime. And if at any point you want to chat with someone personally, you can always write to hello@servicedeskplus.com about your queries or your feedback, and we would be glad to help you with that. All right, everyone, thank you for your participation. It means a lot to us. So, as we have arrived at the end of the season, I hope that you found the entire masterclass season useful. And until the next season, where we see you again in our advanced classes, it's a bye bye from Steffi. Thank you.